Assalamualaikum. Hi everyone. I hope everyone are in good condition. So this is the video of Subtopic 11.1 Monohybrid Inheritance from Chapter 11 Inheritance. So this is the last theme in Biology Form 5, which is Inheritance and Genetic Technology. So before we start, so this is the history of genetics. Okay, the study of heredity and the variation of inherited characteristics is called genetics. So the first person who scientifically explained the principles of inheritance was Mendel. So this is the picture of Mendel. Mendel is known as father of modern genetics. So before we start about the monohybrid inheritance, we have to know about the Mendel Experiment carried out by Mendel. Mendel figured that pea plant Kssm sativum possess 7 different characteristics. So Kssm sativum is pea plant. So this is the 7 characteristics that carry out the experiment carried out by Mendel: seed shape, seed color, pod shape, pod color, flower position, and plant height. Pea plant has contrasting traits which are obvious and easy to identify. So look at to the characteristic of seed shape. Okay, the trait have round and constricted, so it's contrasting trait. Mendel suggested in his theory that a characteristic in a parent plant is passed down to its next generation through the male gametes and female gametes. This showed that the nuclei of male gamete and female gamete had genetic material of the inherited characteristic. So the inheritance factor which determines a characteristic is known as a gene. So Mendel have carried out the experiment. Okay, Mendel have the theory, okay, about the characteristic of parent is passing down to the next generation. Bermakna ciri-ciri daripada pokok induk diturunkan kepada anak pokok melalui gamete. So ciri-ciri yang menentukan karakteristik ataupun menentukan ciri ni dipanggil gene. So what is the definition of monohybrid cross? So monohybrid inheritance involves the inheritance of one characteristic and contrasting trait controlled by a gene. Monohybrid inheritance maksudnya pewarisan yang mengkaji satu karakteristik sahaja. So this is example of monohybrid inheritance. This the study the pewarisan mengkaji satu sahaja ciri. Mendel used purebreed plant as the parental generation to study the inheritance of pea plant traits. So Mendel started with purebreed plant. Okay, how Mendel produced purebreed pea plant through the self-cross plant, which has similar trait to that of its parent plant in terms of genetic content. Therefore, self-cross of purebreed plant produce only tall offsprings. So this is how Mendel produced pure strain by allowing the plants to self-pollinate for several generations. Mendel menghasilkan purebreed pea plant ni melalui satu proses dipanggil self-pollination. Okay. Contohnya pokok tinggi yang dihasilkan, okay, pokok purebreed plant dihasilkan melalui self-pollination. Okay, kajukan sendiri Jadi apabila kacukan sendiri tu macam biasa akan ada pollination, lepas pollination akan ada fertilization, lepas tu germination, okay? Pendebungaan, persenyawaan dan percambahan biji benih. Apabila biji benih tu ditanam dan biji benih tu akan menghasilkan satu anak pokok yang baru, dan anak pokok yang baru tu menghasilkan ciri tinggi sama dengan induk. Jadi proses ini berulang for several generation, berulang-ulang kali menghasilkan pokok yang bakar tulen tinggi. Itu yang Mendel hasilkan. Bakar tulen tinggi dan bakar tulen untuk pokok rendah. So for several generation. In the dominance principle, Mendel explained that in a pea plant with a pair of contrasting traits, its trait is determined by a dominant inherited factor. Alright. Another contrasting trait is determined by recessive inheritance factor. Jadi dalam prinsipal dominan yang Mendel hasilkan ini, sepasang traits macam ni. Okay, kita wakilkan dengan huruf T besar, T besar. Okay, T kecil, T kecil. Maksudnya ada satu faktor yang dominan, ada satu faktor yang recessive. The dominant inherited factor suppress the effect of the recessive inheritance factor. Okay, maksudnya bila ada ciri-ciri dominan, dia akan menenggelamkan recessive factor tu. Hence, the recessive trait is not visible, although his inheritance factor exists together with the dominant inherited factor. Okay. Untuk lebih faham, kita akan tengok next slide. Okay, this is the step of Mendel experiment. Mendel chose the pea plant and his research material because it can be easily grown and bears many seedling. It has both male and female reproductive structure in one flower. It has a short generation interval and possesses contrasting trait or characteristic that are obvious. So this is how Mendel start. Okay. So this is purple flower and then this is white flower. So Mendel remove the stamen, the male part from purple flower. Okay, and then this is white flower. Okay, and then Mendel transfer pollen from stamen of white flower to the couple of purple flower. Okay, Mendel pindahkan the bunga daripada pokok bunga putih kepada pokok bunga purple. So ini adalah kita panggil artificial pollination. Okay, after that the pollinated couple culture into pot. Okay, bunga purple ni akan berkembang menjadi buah, dan apabila buah itu mendapat daripada buah, dalam buah ada biji, dan biji benih itu ditanam, didapati kesemua pokok yang dihasilkan adalah pokok bunga purple. Di sini boleh dibuktikan bunga purple adalah, bunga warna ungu ni adalah bunga yang dominan. Okay. Bunga putih tidak muncul pada generasi yang pertama. So, bunga putih adalah recessive. So this is how the Mendel start using the characteristic height of plant. So Mendel cross a purebreed tall capital T pea plant with purebreed dwarf small t pea plant. Okay, so Mendel start daripada purebreed plant, T besar diwakili dengan huruf T besar. Purebreed pure short plant, T kecil. The cross between the two purebreed, this is purebreed plant, was first one generation which consists of only tall plant. This show that tall trait is dominant, dwarf trait is recessive. Okay, bila dikacukkan pokok baka tulen tinggi dengan baka tulen rendah, kesemua generasi yang pertama menghasilkan pokok yang tinggi. Okay, so we can see the first generation, all the first generation is tall plant. Okay, so that means tall is the dominant traits, while dwarf is the recessive trait, because the dominant trait suppress the characteristic of dwarf trait. After that, Mendel then cross the F1 generation by self-pollinate. Okay, Mendel membiarkan generasi yang pertama ni, okay, F1 generation, untuk kacuk sesama sendiri. Dipanggil self-pollination. What happened after that? Okay, the tall plant, capital T small t, and cross with the tall plant, capital T and small t. So what the result? Is the result? The ratio of the tall plant to dwarf plant in F2 generation was 3:1. Okay, look at the picture. F2 generation have 3 tall plant and only one part of short plant. So the ratio produced is 3 tall plant is to 1 dwarf plant. So the dwarf plant only can be shown during F2 generation. Okay, jadi di sini apabila Mendel membenarkan ataupun kacukan antara F1 generation secara sendiri menghasilkan anak-anak pokok generasi yang kedua, 3 bahagian pokok tinggi, 1 bahagian pokok rendah. Okay, jadi pokok rendah ni muncul pada generasi yang kedua. So in this subtopic we have to learn about the term related to inheritance. Okay, there are few important genetic terms that that have to understand before continuing learning about inheritance. So the term related to inheritance is genes and alleles, phenotype and genotype, characteristic and traits, dominant allele and recessive allele, dominant traits and recessive trait, homozygote and heterozygote, parental generation and filial generation, and purebreeds and hybrid. So get to the picture. So this is cell. Okay, the cell have nucleus. In the nucleus, there are chromosome, and then the chromosome are of DNA. So the segment of DNA is called gene. Okay, so we look at to the picture. This is a pair of homologous chromosome. Okay, homologous chromosome in the nucleus. So what is genes? Genes a basic unit of inheritance which consists of a DNA segment located on the specific locus of a chromosome. So this is genes. Okay, the red one and the blue one. So this is the specific locus of in a chromosome. Okay, DNA segment. Okay, DNA segment is called genes. A genes control a specific characteristic of an organism. So allele is an alternative form of a gene for a specific trait that is located on the same locus of a pair of homologous chromosomes. So this is the location of gene. So in a homologous chromosome, the other location of the homologous chromosome is also called genes. So a pair of gene that same locus is called allele. Okay, allele adalah kedudukan gen yang sama lokus pada homologous chromosome. Contohnya merah ni. Okay, genes yang ni dengan yang gen ni lokus dia sama. So bila lokus dia sama, ini dipanggil allele. Kita pun kat sini. Okay, this is the allele. Okay, each gene is located on the same locus of a pair of homologous chromosome. So we assuming that a gene on this locus control a height of trait. Contohnya kat sini kita andaikan gene T control characteristic of height, okay, ketinggian. So then the gene is represent an allele that control height. T control tall trait, while capital T control tall trait, whereas the small t control dwarf trait. So bila duduk dalam lokal yang sama, kita panggil dia allele T besar, allele T kecil. Okay. So this is the another terms related to inheritance: characteristic, trait, genotype and phenotype. So this is the characteristic in pea plant height. Okay, in the characteristic of pea height, there's a two trait. Okay, tall and dwarf. Color of flower red and white. Okay, so this is the characteristic in human. Okay, trait is the blood group in human. Okay, so this is the characteristic height. The trait is tall and dwarf. So what is phenotype and genotype? So phenotype is the observable characteristic of an organism. Observable maksudnya ciri-ciri yang kita dapat lihat. Kita tengok pokok ni tinggi, kita panggil dia phenotype tinggi. Okay, dwarf, pokok rendah. Apa yang karakteristik yang kita nampak? For example, height. Genotype is the genetic composition of an organism that cannot be seen. So for example, capital T and small t. Genotype for tall and small t is genotype for dwarf. Okay, so genotype ni kita wakil sebab dia adalah kandungan genetik yang kita tak nampak dalam kromosom. Jadi kita wakilkan dengan huruf, dengan huruf besar. Kalau huruf besar dengan huruf besar, dan huruf besar huruf kecil ni bermaksud dia tinggi. Pokok tu genotype untuk tinggi. Kalau huruf kecil dua-dua, maksud dia pokok yang rendah. Okay, characteristic and traits tadi. Characteristic is heritable feature. Okay, such as height, okay, eye color, blood group, presence of dimples. Okay, this characteristic. And each characteristic is a feature of an organism. So traits is a variation of specific trait. Specific characteristic. Each inherited characteristics consists of a specific trait. For example, height is characteristic, whereas tall and dwarf is a trait. Okay, height adalah karakteristik. Jadi height ada dua trait. Okay, tall dan dwarf. Color ada red and white. Okay, variation of the characteristic. So to remember, this is mnemonic. Okay, genotype deals with the gene code. So kita wakilkan dengan huruf genes. Genotype is genetic composition. Phenotype looks like deals with a looks you can take a photo with. That means apa yang awak nampak. Okay, phenotype tu apa yang kita nampak. Foto, phenotype tu foto apa yang kita nampak dalam gambar tu. Okay, so this is another terms. Dominant allele and recessive allele, dominant trait and recessive trait, homozygote and heterozygote. Okay, so this is the picture related to the terms. Dominant allele is an allele which always show its trait when it is present and suppress the effect of recessive allele. Okay, dominant is represented by a capital letter. For example, B. Okay, capital letter B. Recessive allele and recessive we show its trait when both allele are recessive allele. The effect of recessive allele is suppressed by the presence of dominant allele. It is represented by a small letter B, small b. So dominant selalu dominant ni akan menunjukkan ciri-ciri dia. Okay, dominant dan dominant allele diwakili dengan huruf besar. Apabila ciri-ciri dominan ni dia mesti sama ada dua dominan ataupun satu dominan sahaja sudah menunjukkan ciri-ciri dia dominan. Okey, dia akan menenggelamkan ciri-ciri resesi. Okey, tapi kalau resesi dia perlu kedua-dua ciri resesi tu ada pada homologous kromosom. Kena kedua-duanya huruf kecil macam ni. Baru dia menunjukkan ciri-ciri resesif tu. Dominant trait and recessive trait. Okay, dominant allele is the located the gene located at the same locus allele. Dominant trait is means the expressed when the both allele are dominant. Maksudnya bila both allele dominant baru dia akan menunjukkan dominant traits. Okay, itu maksud je. Trait tu macam tadi yang karakteristik tadi lah. Okay, bila ada dua-dua dominant allele macam ni, P besar dominant allele, baru dia akan menunjukkan dia dominant traits. Okay, so dia akan ada dua lah, B besar dan B besar B kecil. Okay, capital B and capital B and small b. Recessive trait is expressed if a recessive allele is paired with another recessive allele. Okay, so recessive allele, example A, okay, small a and small a. Okay, and it will show the recessive traits. Ataupun contohnya B kecil. Okay, bila kedua-duanya recessive allele baru dia akan menunjukkan recessive traits. Okay, homozygote and heterozygote. Okay, homozygote, both allele at loci of a pair homologous chromosome are the same. Okay, so this is example. B besar, or B kecil. So this is homozygote. In this picture, P besar is homozygote. Or A kecil is homozygote. Homo maksudnya sama. Okay, allele dia sama. Sama ada dia huruf besar ataupun huruf kecil. Kita panggil dia homozygous. Okay, so homozygous dominant, homozygous yang recessive. Heterozygote means allele at a loci of a pair of homologous chromosomes are different. For example, B besar B kecil. So bila ada dominant allele bergabung dengan recessive allele, kita panggil dia heterozygote. Okay, B besar B kecil. Ini adalah heterozygote. So next ada term related to the inheritance is parental generation and filial generation. So this is parental. Parental means induk. Okay, P generation induk. Filial means offspring. Okay, so parental generation refer to the first generation who two individuals which are method to predict or analyze genotype of their offspring. So filial generation refer to a successive generation as a result of mating between individual of purebreed parental generation. So purebreed and hybrid. Purebreed refer to individual that carry two identical allele for a trait. Okay, kalau purebreed sini purple flower P besar. White flower P kecil. Okay, two identical allele for a trait. Self-cross always produce offspring which are same characteristic in every generation. Okay, so apabila berlakunya self-cross, setiap kali generasi tu dia akan menghasilkan karakteristik yang sama. Contohnya kalau purple flower cross with white flower, all plant have purple flower for several generation, berulang kali. So dia panggil itu adalah purebreed. Kalau hybrid pula, the product of mating between two purebreed. Okay, contohnya macam ni lah. Okay, hybrid ni dihasilkan apabila purebreed baka tulen purple flower, baka tulen white flower, bila kacuk dapat purple flower. Yang ni adalah hybrid. Alright. So this is how the monohybrid inheritance. Okay. Allele for dominant purple flower is labeled B, capital letter. Okay, for allele for recessive trait is labeled with B, small letter. So we can write down the key before we draw the schematic diagram like this. Okay, B besar for dominant allele for purple trait, B kecil recessive allele for white trait. Therefore, each purebreed plant have two identical allele, either B, capital B for purple flower and small b for white flower. Okay, like this. Okay, this is the genotype of purple flower and white flower. During formation of gamete, homologous chromosomes separate during meiosis and produce gamete that will carry one B allele for purple flower and one B allele for white flower. Okay, this one. Okay, during gamete formation, meiosis, okay, the parental will produce gamete, and the gamete is carried out only one allele. Okay, because meiosis will be half the chromosome, so the allele will be separated. Okay, B besar, gamete from B besar only B besar. Okay, B kecil akan menghasilkan gamete yang akan bawa separuh daripada genetik bunga putih. Okay, after that, fertilization between a gamete which carry B allele, okay, carries capital B allele, and a gamete which carry small b allele produce offspring with genotype B, capital B and small b in first filial generation. Okay, apabila dikacukkan gamete antara B besar dengan B kecil, maka terhasillah generasi yang pertama, kita panggil yang mempunyai allele B besar dan B kecil. Tapi dia menunjukkan phenotype yang purple flower bunga ungu disebabkan oleh ciri-ciri dominan yang ada, iaitu B besar. The effect of recessive allele is replaced by the presence of dominant allele. Okay, jadi dia menunjukkan ciri-ciri dominan, iaitu bunga ungu disebabkan oleh ada allele dominan di dalam genotype dia. After that, in the first filial generation is self-cross. Okay, dia semua bunga purple ni ataupun bunga ungu ni dikacukkan sesama sendiri, so akan menghasilkan generasi yang kedua. Okay, contohnya macam ni. Okay, self cross, so purple flower cross with purple flower, so purple flower B besar B kecil menghasilkan gamete B besar satu ataupun gamete B kecil. So bila dia cross, dia akan menghasilkan B besar purple flower. Okay, B besar B kecil, B besar B kecil is purple flower. So the ratio produce, okay, 3:1. Okay, B kecil is white flower. So 3 purple is to 1 white flower appear in F2 generation. Okay, for monohybrid inheritance, the genotypic ratio, okay, is 1 B besar 1 capital B is 2, 2, capital B, small b, and 1, small b, small b. Okay, genotypic ratio ni kita kena tulis 1 B besar, 2 B besar, B kecil, dan 1 B kecil, B kecil. The phenotypic ratio we can write as 3 purple is to 1 white flower. Okay, 3 bunga purple dan 1 bahagian bunga putih. Punnett square can also be used. So this is the Punnett square to predict the ratio. So box in the Punnett square represent the different allelic combination of zygote. Combination of the zygote. B besar akan menghasilkan B besar is purple flower. B kecil and B kecil dia akan menghasilkan white flower. So Mendel's first law, okay, is introduced by Mendel. Mendel introduced Mendel's first law after carry out monohybrid inheritance. The Mendel first law is called law of segregation. So a characteristic of an organism is controlled by a pair of alleles, and only of the allelic pair is inherited in a gamete. So this is the example, the picture to show the Mendel first law, okay, law of segregation. So dalam induk menghasilkan, contohnya dalam induk ada allele S besar, S kecil. So apabila allele tu segregate masa meiosis 1 dengan meiosis 2, so allele tu akan membawa only of allelic pair inherited in a gamete. Okay, so dia akan segregate. Segregate tu maksudnya berpisah. Sepasang allele tu telah berpisah. Itulah dipanggil law of segregation. So summary of Mendel monohybrid inheritance. A characteristic inherited from a parent to the next generation is determined by a genetic factor, which now known as a gene. Okay? A trait is controlled by a pair of genetic factor known as allele. A pair of alleles segregate. Segregate means separate randomly during formation of gamete. Only one allele from the pair is found in a single gamete. Okay. Satu trait tu ataupun karakteristik tu diwakili oleh sepasang allele. Contohnya S besar, S kecil. Apabila dia menjalani meiosis, iaitu pembentukan gamete. So dalam gamete only one allele from a pair tadi. Contoh daripada S besar, S kecil, gamete akan membawa S besar ataupun S kecil. During fertilization, a zygote possesses 2 alleles, 1 allele from each parent for a specific characteristic. So fertilization is random. So genotypic combination of the homozygote dominant show dominant traits, while the dominant recessive show recessive trait. Okay, heterozygote genotype combination between dominant allele dengan another one recessive allele show dominant trait. So fertilization yang akan berlaku, okay, persediaan yang berlaku adalah random. Jadi bila dia combine antara dominan dengan dominan, dia akan jadi homozygote dominan. Kalau resesif dengan resesif akan jadi homozygote resesif. Ataupun dia combine antara satu dominan dengan satu resesif, dia akan menghasilkan heterozygote genotype. So this is how to write a schematic diagram of monohybrid. So first of all, we have to write down the allele. Okay, we can choose the letter. Okay, such as so this is example for tall stem. Okay, T besar. Okay, for short stem is T kecil. So we also have to write down the aspect here. Okay, phenotype, genotype, meiosis, gamete, random fertilization, and F1. So first of all, we start purebreed. Okay, tall stem is the phenotype. Short stem is a phenotype. So genotype is T besar, T kecil, capital T, okay, and small t. Meiosis, we can use the arrow as a symbol of meiosis, and gamete. Okay, so the gamete for the plant, tall stem plant is T. capital T. For short stem is small t. So this is the gamete from the parent of tall stem. So this is the gamete from the parent of short stem. So the gamete we random fertilize and produce first one generation. So genotype of first one generation is capital T and small t, which carry out phenotype tall stem. After that, self pollination between the F1. F1 kacuk dengan F1. Okay, generasi pertama dikacuk sesama sendiri, dipanggil self pollination. So we write down the phenotype tall stem, F1 phenotype, and genotype of F1, T besar T kecil, T besar T kecil, capital T and small t, capital T and small t. So after that, meiosis, you can write the arrow and write down the gamete. Because of the tall stem F1 have combination of two different alleles. Okay, so in the gamete they have two type of gamete that carry two different alleles. Okay, so disebabkan oleh heterozygote ni, dia menghasilkan gamete yang mempunyai allele T besar ataupun allele T kecil, sama juga dengan tall stem yang ini. So after that, random fertilization. Okay, random fertilization means from induk ni dengan induk ni. Okay, maybe random T besar random fertilize with T besar and produce tall stem. Okay, genotype T besar T besar, T besar and T kecil. Okay, akan menghasilkan tall stem. Okay, satu lagi T besar and T kecil, capital T and small t akan produce T besar T kecil, tall stem. And another one, the last part is T kecil, we produce short stem. So this is the result of F2. Okay, 3 tall stem is to 1 short stem ratio. So tall stem is dominant, short stem is recessive. Okay, that's all. Thank you.